Hello, it's Midday, and welcome to the News Bulletin live from our studios here at 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from Asare here in Kanda, Accra. We're live on our numerous affiliates across the country and on 3news.com as well. And coming up this hour, Elections Committee of the governing New Patriotic Party holds emergency meeting over fallout from the just ended super delegate elections and the upcoming runoff between Francis Adainimo and Boakye Jaku, as a former energy minister dismisses assertions that he has withdrawn from the runoff. Meanwhile, flag bearer contender Kennedy Japan and three others to face disciplinary committee of the party over alleged misconduct. Also in the package, Alan Chamatin expresses misgivings about the conduct of the super delegates vote. And of course, former Northern Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bugri Nabu, appears before the committee probing alleged plot to oust Inspector General of Police Dr. George Akufu-Dampare and confirms leaked audio is his voice. Thanks very much for making a date with us here on the news. In our very first story, the former Northern Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bugri Nabu, has confirmed the content of a leaked audio tape that is the subject of an ongoing parliamentary inquiry. The audio tape has voice of persons purportedly plotting to oust the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu-Dampare. Now, Bugri Nabu indicated at the committee that indeed his voice is on the tape and that the said meeting took place in his office at Osu with his certain Commander Asare and Commissioner Mensah. Members of the five-member committee set up by the Speaker to investigate the content of the audio tape have been interrogating Chief Bugri Nabu at the committee's hearing. Here are excerpts.
Do you see yourself connected with the tape you just heard?
My voice is there.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Would you be good enough to tell us the rest of the individuals that you were engaged in that conversation with?
Well, one Commander Asare.
Okay, please go slowly, yes.
Police commander.
Yes.
But I don't know which district or which region or which section he command. But he introduced himself to me when he came to my office.
Okay.
That he was a police commander based at the police headquarters. And so I asked him, where does he know me? And he told me that during the time of political campaign, 2014, 2015, 2016, I used to come to work with the president, the vice president, and the Alaji shop. And I know that if he says so, it's true.
Okay. Who is the other individual apart from Commissioner Asare that was on tape?
Apart from Commander Asare, there was one man also later joined, called Commander COP Mensah.
Okay.
That he's on leave now prior to his retirement. Yeah, he was also part of it.
Yes. So you were only three?
Then later, when the meeting were going on, one, I didn't see the person, it was on phone. One JP, who is also a police superintendent at the police headquarters. But I haven't seen him. He talked to me on phone, and I listened to him on phone.
Okay. So, where is the location of your office where this place? The taping took place?
My office at Osu.
Osu.
Get directly opposite Osu Police Station.
So you want to tell this committee that all that was said on the tape is valid?
Oh, it's valid.
Okay. So members of the committee, he has authenticated the tape.
Right, so you heard Bugri Nabu there being interrogated by the committee. Let's go live to the phone lines now and speak to Duke Mensa Opoku, who is our correspondent covering this current proceedings. Duke, thank you very much for your time. So beyond what we've heard, what more can you report?
Thank you, Kwesi. So, first of all, a lot of people do know Mr. Daniel Bugri Nabu as the former regional chairman, Northern Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, and as a contractor. He did make it clear today at the hearing of this special committee that he is the paramount chief in the Mampuku Kingdom, and he serves at the pleasure of the Nairi, who is the overlord of the Mampuku Kingdom, and that as a chief, he is the Namong Da of the Namong traditional area. And as a chief, if he tells lies, he will die. And the oath that he's taking to sit on the skin which he sits on now. And so even beyond the legal allegations of perjury and others, lies under oath, he's also under traditional oath not to tell lies. It is on that premise that he proceeded to indicate that, as a matter of fact, the contents of the leaked audio tape are valid. In fact, he did have that conversation in his office with two policemen, one Commander Asare and one COP Mensa, and that he had this conversation with these people in relation to the conduct of the IGP, George Ekufu Dampare. He said some persons close to him had contacted him that these men wanted to speak to him in relation to the conduct of the IGP, and also one of them, that is a COP, wanted to be in his good books so that he could lobby the president to get him to become the IGP. The crux of the argument they were making was that the IGP is a guy in the who NDC member, and this meeting took place before the Asare North primary, and they had come to Asare North by-election. They had come to tell him that if whatever goes on continues to go on, the IGP will ensure that they will first lose the Asare North by-election and go on to lose the main election 2024, because as IGP, he has been promised, allegedly, according to what the account that Bugri Nabu gave, they had been promised. These two men told him that the IGP, Dr. Dampare, had been promised by John Dramani Mahama that he will be maintained as the IGP if in the event that the NDC wins the 2024 election. And because of that, he should work for them. And they even went on to tell him that this IGP was the ADC of President John Evans Atamel. So he is deeply rooted in the NDC, and he has NDC antecedent, and it will be better for the NPP to remove him or get the president, lobby the president to remove him so that they can go into the 2024 election, knowing fully well that they don't have an IGP who will work against him. Again, upon interrogation, he also told the committee that indeed he recorded the conversation, that he got a special gadget from the Accra Mall in his work to record this conversation, because he needed this conversation on record so that in the event that he goes to the president, that this is the information that he has. If the president casts any doubt, he will play back this audio to the president to prove to him that it is credible, he's not telling lies, and that indeed people have come to him with these concerns. So as Bugri Nabu came, or Chief Bugri Nabu came to the committee in the company of two lawyers, two counsels, and he's still being interrogated by the 5-member committee chaired by Ebuakwa South Legislator Samuel Atachia.
Right, Duke, pretty interesting revelations there. So who are his lawyers?
His lawyers, he has one Mr. Samuel Dove from Crab and Co., and another lady who's serving as co-counsel for him. Yeah, so he's in a company of two lawyers and 5 of his family members and personal staff.
All right, but my final question to you, Doug, before I let go of you. So what's going to happen next? Are there other people expected to appear before this committee?
Well, at the introductory remark that was given by the chairman, looks like Bugri Nabu, who is the principal, the principal person to be interrogated, is the one that they are going to take today. They were actually asking for the contact to some of the people who were heard on the tape. When the meeting is done, the hearing is done today, we will know what the next steps are in relation to what the chairman and the committee actually want to do. We've been told earlier that the committee wants to do its work within 2 weeks and present the report to the Speaker before Parliament comes back from recess in October.
Duke Opoku-Mensah, our colleague on the ground, thank you very much for joining us with further updates on the sitting of the committee. Now, the Elections Committee of the governing New Patriotic Party is holding an emergency meeting over the fallout from last Saturday's super delegate elections. The polls intended to whittle down the number of flag-bearer aspirants from 10 to 5, rather produce 6 candidates following a tie between Dr. Boakye Ejiakor and Francis Adainimo after the two obtained 9 votes each. Well, the party has announced a rerun between the former Asante Mampong MP and former Energy Minister on Saturday, September 2. Reports had earlier suggested that Dr. Boakye Ejiakor was withdrawing from the race. However, in a statement, he's denying the claim. In studio, Emmanuel Samani, my colleague, who's been going through the statement, has just joined us. Samani, what else is he saying in the statement?
Well, Parkus, is a pretty brief statement from the office of Boakye Ejiakor, who says to disregard any false information as he is ready for the runoff. So he says that my attention has been drawn to some false claims and reports that I, Boakye Ejiakor, has withdrawn from the MPP presidential primaries. I have not made any such pronouncements with anyone or any media house, as I am ready for the upcoming runoff scheduled for Saturday, September 2, 2023. Best regards. So that's a statement there indicating strongly that he is ready for that runoff and he has not withdrawn from that race.
Right, thank you very much, Emmanuel Samani, with latest details coming from the camp of Dr. Boakye Ejiakor. Let's hop onto the phone lines now and go straight to the NPP headquarters where Judith Awotri-Tando has been monitoring the meeting of the Elections Committee. Judith, what more do we know?
Right, and so Kwesi, yes, the 9-member Elections Committee is currently meeting here at the NPP headquarters. We know that they have 2 agendas. One is to submit reports from the Superdelegate Conference that was held on Saturday. And also, we know that one of the highlights is for Kennedy Ejapon, who is a flag-bearer aspirant of the NPP, to meet the disciplinary committee today. We are told that is what's going to happen. We've not yet cited him, but we are hoping that he's going to get here many moments soon. So basically, that has been the agenda here. We are still awaiting what would be the outcome of what this meeting that is currently going on would be about.
Thanks, Judith. Meanwhile, the flag-bearer hopeful Kennedy Ejapon has obtained the second highest votes, in the super delegates vote has been held before the disciplinary committee of the party for violating party rules governing the presidential primaries. Emmanuel Samani still stays with me in the studio. You have got a copy of the statement issued by the party, the party's general secretary. What's he been saying?
Well, basically, a release signed by the party secretary, Justin Kodia-Frimpong, says that there's been a potential breach of Article 10.7.5 of the MPP Constitution. Now, the release also says that the 4, Raphael Patrick Safo, Charles Yao Ado, Musa Suleiman, and Hobson Adoye, will be referred to the party's disciplinary committee, as this is a direct response to the evidence, including video and photographic materials which suggest potential violations of the provisions outlined in Article 35A 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the party's constitution and a potential misconduct under Article 4.7. Now, this is in relation to the direct and potential violations of the provisions outlined in Article 35A 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the party's constitution and a potential misconduct under Article 4.7. Meanwhile, Kennedy Ejapon has also been invited for the same reasons. Now, emphasis should also be, placed on the fact that Honorable Kennedy Japan, pursuant to the aforementioned constitutional provisions of the party, will also be summoned before the disciplinary committee of the party to provide further responses and further details to those accusations. So basically, that's what, that statement signed by the General Secretary of the MPP, Justin Kodia Frimpong, saying.
Thanks very much, Emmanuel Samani, for giving us the latest details of what the party statement has been saying on Kennedy Japan. Meanwhile, flag bearer aspirant Alan Kwejo Chematin has expressed misgivings about the conduct of the super delegate elections. In a statement, Mr. Chematin condemned the assault on his Northeast Regional Coordinator during last Saturday's exercise. The former Trade Minister said he will deliver a public broadcast within the week after his team has finished analyzing the results of the super delegate elections conducted on Saturday, August 26. The statement urged his supporters to remain calm. Well, before that, let's go back and hear exactly what Kennedy Japan is reported to have said during the day of elections, for which reason he's been hauled before the disciplinary committee.
In this country, President Akufo Mema will show down. Vice President Mema will show down. So, Mama chasing me agent. I'm not going to shut them. What do you embassy? What do you embassy? Yes. Me challenge the President Akufo at any time. In this country, President Akufo Mema will show down. Vice President Mema will show down. So, Mama chasing me agent. I'm not going to shut them. What do you embassy? What do you embassy? Yes. Me challenge the President Akufo at any time.
Well, also you had Kennedy Japan there, and the statements he's reported to have made during the Super Delegates Conference on Saturday. Let's also pick some reactions from some of the candidates who contested in Saturday's elections. Now, campaign team member of Ifria Koto, the New Patriotic Party flag bearer hopeful Ken Wood Nowaso says his candidate is disappointed in the outcome of the results and his share of last Saturday's votes. Now, speaking on the Sunrise Morning Show, Mr. Nowaso said both the Electoral Commission and the NPP left his candidate disappointed after the rules and regulations guiding the elections were blatantly flouted. Take a listen.
My surprise will be, the overboard. We thought all of us could do better. This is an internal election. There are some matters that would have to be addressed by the party internally, not on radio. Few things, had gone on. There have been violations and, things that we didn't expect to happen. Somehow, both institutions, police and the Electoral Commission, also failed us largely various points. All the arrangements that we have made in terms of the regulations, the restrictions, and all of that, they were not taken on board, whether the IGP will be speaking to it, because at regional levels, our expectations were not met. Because we would expect that all other violations will be addressed. All those who have violated the rules will be brought before, we have evidence, to put before the disciplinary committee. If truly they are going to pick on Kennedy, then they must be ready to, address all other issues that will be coming out.
Speaking on the Sunrise Show, you had Mr. Nowaso there. Meanwhile, speaking on the same show, campaign team member of Alan Kwejo Chematin, Richard Nyama, said the whole election was a sham after Alan Chematin's polling agent was assaulted.
The whole process was, I would say, in Alergu was a sham. That is what I'm saying, that from the word go, our position is that you just need to be part of the five. And then you go to the actual delegates, the MPP, the soul and body of the party, to decide who to lead them. So whichever number you came on in the five really doesn't matter. It's a numbers game. And so when you go to the ground, the numbers will then speak. But this one, you can buy your way out of it, and that's what happened. You can intimidate your way out of it, and that's what happened. You can beat people and have your way, and that's what happened. You're going to be able to beat and intimidate and do all those things and buy your way out of 210,000. That would be a very expensive one.
Let's also hear from Dr. Baumia's campaign spokesperson, Dennis Miracles Abwaji, who welcomed the results achieved by his candidate.
Over the weekend, the National Party released a statement they have clearly indicated that few members of our party have been referred to the disciplinary committee.
That's right.
Head, so that if their issues are founded, then they will be given a fair hearing. If the issues are not founded, our party has disciplinary rules to deal with these things. I mean, first of all, nobody can threaten the president, the vice president of the republic. We must state that emphatically, that under no circumstance, not even in an external party project, not even a national party project, the president of the Republic of Ghana and the vice president of the Republic of Ghana cannot be threatened by anybody under any circumstance without under no justification. And so we would not say much. We would simply say that we see the party taking decisive steps and actions in.
All right, that was Dennis Miracles Abaji speaking there for the Vice President. Let's go on the phone line tonight and speak to Professor Kobi Mensah, who's a political marketing strategist and lecturer at the University of Ghana. Thank you, sir, for your time, and good to have you on the Midday News here on 3FM. So, first of all, what do you make of attempts by the party to invite 3 members, as well as Kennedy Japan, to the disciplinary committee?
Thank you, Kwesi. And let me first say that congratulations for your winning. I haven't had opportunity to congratulate you earlier. Yes. Well, I think that it was a good thing for the party to actually invite those they think had actually gone against the rules of conduct for the election. Obviously, there must be a disciplinary processes. I was actually saying when I heard that if it was any ordinary person, certainly the police would actually pick that person up because, of course, threats are actually, something that a police would be interested in. And so I think that it's a good thing for them to invite them. But also we should look at perhaps what actually caused that particular outburst. And I don't think that it's only been Kennedy who had actually had that particular position. We've had quite a number of complaints from the Allen team, from other people. So whilst they invite them for a disciplinary hearing, which is the right thing to do, in order that they could actually, prevent it happening next time, they should also look at the root causes, why he actually went the way he did, and investigate those as well. And then, of course, bring the perpetrators of that particular incident to book. So they should actually be both ways, looking at it.
Right, Prof. Let's put matters in perspective here. For Kennedy Japan to say that he was going to challenge the president and the vice president and also going to give them a showdown, really, some would say there was really nothing wrong with that.
Well, it depends. I mean, in communication, it depends on how someone actually position and what they say. Of course, communication is not only the kind of words that you use, but the tone and pace of how you say it. Now, if someone said that he was going to give the president, the vice president, a showdown and said it in a different manner, it could mean that, perhaps he was going to be much more competitive, he was giving them a run for their money, etc. But of course, if you look at the manner he said it, I do not think that particular explanation as to a competitive showdown was what he meant. He probably might mean something different. But of course, we can only use certain frameworks, theoretically, to explain and to try to analyze what he meant until he's met the committee. But I think that, yes, in that very moment, he probably has gone overboard. And so it is in the right position for the party to invite him as a disciplinary hearing. But they need to also investigate what actually led to that, occasion.
For a party whose top hierarchy has been seen as largely biased towards one presidential candidate and seeming to be pushing for one that's called an establishment candidate, don't you think they need to handle this in a very, very careful manner, not to instigate, I beg your pardon, or, sort of get people angry on the ground?
Absolutely, especially looking at how far Kennedy Japan has actually come into the race. I mean, earlier we hadn't actually given him a dog chance. I can recall when he started, announcing his candidacy. Most people actually thought that he wasn't really serious. Of course, over the period, he's garnered a lot more support. He's actually showing that he's a formidable candidate against the establishment. So I think that the disciplinary committee would also look at the possibility and the impact of what a very heavy-handed approach towards him could mean to the processes come November. And I'm sure they will be very pragmatic about it. So in as much as they're right to invite him, and it's supposed to send a strong signal to everybody that yes, you would be invited if found culpable of the law, they would also be very practical in looking at its implications on the wider processes of November. So I'm very sure they might come with a caution as opposed to any heavy-handed kind of punishment against this candidacy.
And again, as you rightly said, this allegation that was made by Kenny Japan, for which reason we saw him ranting, was not alien to him. We also heard from the camp of Dr. Mahmoud, the camp of Alan Chermantin, where his own supporters had said that in the Northeast region, for instance, there were people who were voting and literally were showing their ballots to the general public, which was against the rules of engagement. And so if this disciplinary committee has to put its feet on the ground, then they've got to be seen to be neutral and to be applying the rules, in a straightforward manner.
Absolutely. I mean, it has to be a broad brush. It couldn't actually be only an isolated case of Canadian Japan. There had been a whole rumor of resources, in fact, money being doled out to people. We've had a lot of rumors saying that even the diaspora, people have paid for people's, tickets. They've given them money. There's so much of irregularities had actually been leveled against this particular, elections. Even as you mentioned, the Northeast, where people have been whipped in line and people have been abused. The party should have a broad brush, investigation going on, and disciplinary procedures being meted at against people who will be found culpable. So I think that they shouldn't only focus on Canadian Japan or one or two people, but they have to be a very broad, approach in this particular, investigation and disciplinary procedure. I don't think that it will be fair for them to only, nail in on Canadian Japan or one or two people, but they have to be broader. They have to be broad in terms of their investigation.
And following from that, what would be the implications of people, the generality of the political party and its support base, seeing that the committee is being selective or biased in its application of the rules? Mind you, they must not be seen to be not to be biased, but they must not just be biased, but they must be seen not to be biased. I beg your pardon.
Absolutely. Now, I think that, the party had been here before. You remember the issue about, Alan had actually resigned previously in terms of the historic, records of this party. It is exactly this kind of incidences that actually led Alan to write a letter to the party saying that if you don't take actions, I'll be forced to resign because my people are being hounded by, the so-called, front runners. And if you take the same incidents, those days, it's exactly what is happening. If the party executives do not actually put their foot down and be broader in terms of their investigations and the people they are calling for hearing, then of course they are going to tread on the same historic path. And it's going to lead to acrimonies, lead to possibly breaking up of the political party. So I think that, as you said, they should be seen not to be biased. They should be seen being firm and not to be favoring anybody else, but making sure that they are putting the rules of the game, squarely to everybody's door. And so they must be seen doing the right thing as opposed to being favorable to one or two, camps.
My final question to you, Professor Kobi Mensah, and it has to do with Alan Chermantin and his showing in last Saturday's super delegate elections. What do you think are his chances moving forward into the general election?
I think that prior to this delegate election, we had actually done quite a number of surveys that actually show that the broader you come into the picture, the more you see Alan Chermantin chances. We did a survey amongst, the party delegates. Now, the structure of the delegates in such a way that the more national the delegates are in terms of the delegate level, the more you see them tilt towards, Vice President Dr. Baume's camp. But then when you look at it, when you go down the the delegate list, then of course you see, people tilting towards Alan's camp, for example. And so if we look at it from that perspective, going forward in November, we expect, for example, Alan, coming on top because of the evidence that we've seen. When you do a national, poll, for example, a lot more people feel that Alan is much more stronger candidate, to face NDC, former President Mahama than, Bawumia, for example. So, yes, when you look at it from that perspective, in terms of the bigger goal, in terms of the bigger objective for the political party, then of course the delegates are supposed to or are seen to be selecting Alan. But then, of course, if you look at it from their individual, perspectives, i.e., people who want to hedge their positions, people who want to, look for some resources towards their own, competition come November, then of course, Bawumia seems to be the choice, because don't forget, most of the MPs actually have a competition to fight in November. And so a lot of them are hedging, fearing that if they show any sentiment against Bawumia, then of course, their own chances will be up for grabs.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Kobi Mensah. He's a political marketing strategist and lecturer at the University of Ghana. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And that's how we conclude the news. It came to you live from our studios here at 3FM 92.7. Ikuya is up next, the very latest in the world of business.
Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for staying with us here on 3FM 92.7. Time now for Business Daily with me, Nana Ikuya Mensah Abrampa. And coming up this afternoon, global fuel prices tipped to remain stable for the rest of the year. That's according to Fitch Solutions. And Tax Justice Coalition Ghana calls for progressive tax reforms amidst economic challenges. We have the details in a bit. Please stay. Let's settle for the details now, as Fitch Solutions is projecting a relatively stable global crude oil price at about $84 per barrel for the rest of the year. The projection, according to the research firm, is based on global economic shifts, including the impact of events like the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Global crude prices shot up to over $100 a barrel in 2022 due to the Russia-Ukraine war. However, prices have been relatively lower at about $80 a barrel this year. Ratings agency Fitch is predicting prices could remain around $84 a barrel, attributing this to happenings on the global front. Energy analyst Dr. Yusuf Suleimana seems to agree with the forecast and has been providing more perspective.
They unilaterally announced 1 million barrel cuts, from the market, and Russia also followed suit. You remember, Russia is also, the leader in OPEC plus, and Russia is about number 3, followed by Saudi Arabia number 2, and US number 1 in terms of oil production globally. And so, if Russia and Saudi Arabia should unite in this way, in terms of oil supply cuts, then the impact in the market is just going to be felt drastically, and that's what is happening. So the policy rate hikes on one side, and then the increment in, the cuts, the continuous cuts by OPEC and OPEC plus on the other hand, is beginning to equilibrate. And if it stays like this, then we will likely see the oil in the 80s.
Also, Dr. Suleimana is, however, concerned that the $80 region is still quite high and will cause inflation in the country to remain at worrying levels.
I think it is, the best for downward pumps. What the consumer pays at the pump. And bear in mind, whatever the consumer pays at the pump has direct impact on inflation. As long as we may not see rise in inflation, a rapid rise in inflation, with oil in the 80s, I don't expect us to see that massive drop or the drop that everybody expects to see in the inflation. So by what we could do as a nation, if you're a producer and an importer of finished product, like our market per se, the peculiar nature of our market, we have to work at a model where we are able to cascade some of the benefits, which are called the windfalls, that could potentially come from the upstream.
Energy analyst Dr. Yusuf Suleimana there. As market watchers had predicted, government recorded an oversubscription in the latest Treasury bill auction held on Friday after missing its target at the previous auction. Interest rates on the market have also surged to about 31.24%. Government realized about 3.2 billion cedis, representing a 5.6% oversubscription of its target. According to the auction results, a chunk of the bids were from the 91-day bill, from which government realized about 2.4 billion cedis from accepting all bids that were tendered. For the 182 and 364-day bills, however, government did not accept all bids tendered. About 701.7 million cedis were accepted for the 182-day bill, although bids worth 717.5 million cedis was tendered. Interest rates continued to soar despite several concerns about the increasing cost of repaying the debt instruments. Government intends to borrow a little over 3 billion through treasury bills this week in order to meet its financing obligations. Now, the Tax Justice Coalition Ghana and its affiliates raised concerns over the country's regressive tax policies and the debt crisis. They have called for progressive and fair taxation. The coalition's resolve emerges as a significant call to action amidst the current financial landscape. The group has further called for the review of some tax policies to mitigate its burden on the public.
Reaffirm our resolve and commitment to advocate a more progressive tax system for all to finance public goods and services. Call on government to revise the current structure of the VAT system and its computation, as it has a cascading effect on businesses and individuals. Urge the government to abolish the 21.9% tax on fees on distance learning and review its policy to tax the profit of the non-resident service providers. Urge the government to foster the implementation of the Exemptions Act 2022 Act 1083 to minimize tax exemptions to profit-making businesses, both local and foreign. Call on government to strive to tie the collection and payment of taxes to the provision of effective and efficient public services so as to improve on voluntary tax compliance.
And that was the Tax Justice Coalition Ghana, their raising issue for review of some tax policies to mitigate its burden on the public. When you log on to 3news.com, we have more business news updates. That's it for Business Daily this afternoon with me, Nana Ikuya Mensa Aprampa. More news on 3news.com. Enjoy your lunch and have a good afternoon. Black Rasta, join shortly.